two rooms away, which shows up in my glasses. Okay, let's see if this works. I don't know. So I have a new computer. My old computer was running Windows 10, which I think is totally non-functioning now. I'm not positive. But so I've upgraded to Windows 11, and you don't see me very well there. Now it's probably going to fall back.
And Jim Blanchard has joined us.
Hey, Bill.
Good.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
I finally got mine set up the way I want it.
Well, I'm still playing here.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't work.
I haven't made the jump to Windows 11 yet. I don't know. I'm always hesitant. It's been out quite a long time, but I just want to make sure that all my software works with it.
No, Windows 10. I don't know what the details are on it, but there are issues with support that are going away this summer. So
I know the support for Windows 10 is going away, but I thought that they will continue. The system will continue operating, only that you're on your own if something goes wrong.
And that makes sense. That could be.
I think that's true. Yeah. That's been true in the previous version.
This is Frank Unger, I'll bet. The other Frank, it always says Franklin Marfia. Okay, Frank. Can you hear us now? But we can't see you like last time. Frank, are you there? Okay, we can see Paul now.
Bill, are you able to hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay.
And Dick Gallant raised his thumb, so assuming he can hear. But the mystery, like the last few times, is Frank Unger.
Bill?
Yeah.
You have recording set on automatic because we came on, Paul and I came on before you did. And
Right. Yes, I have it set so that whoever logs on first, the recording starts right there.
Wow.
Okay.
And continues until the last guy signs off or I sign off.
Or you close. Okay.
So there's Frank Marfia.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Who was that? Frank Unger?
Frank, yeah.
Yeah, we can see you. We just can't, and we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah. I've got a couple issues here. My computer's getting pretty old. I'm just
like the rest of us.
But out. I mean, this thing goes back about 13 years or so.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. It still works at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the rest of us. Bunch of old computers.
Well, mine
Dinosaurs.
is brand new.
Yeah, actually, mine is new also. I got mine at Christmas.
However, we're still getting the software, or getting the content from the old computer fully loaded onto the new computer. So it's not accessible to me on the computer itself. My son is a computer whiz. He's an electrical engineer from the space agency or space industry, retired, and he has reconfigured my files extensively. My old computer is probably, well, it's at least 10 years old, and it probably is more like 12, 15, something like that. And over time, different changes and so forth, I would lose track of stuff that I was working with, and there would be situations where some genealogy stuff I might not touch for 2 or 3 years, and then go back and look something up, and who knows what changes I would make. But the effect of it, Matt told me yesterday, was that the file structure. So, and these are. So we're moving from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and are using OneDrive to make the change. And I've been running OneDrive on my Windows 10 computer for a year at least, and the files are all there, but they are mixed up a bit. Mixed up quite a bit, actually. And when we loaded, so we loaded everything onto the new computer, the Windows 11. Both of these are HPs. I think they have the same disk drive space, but we are loading the new quote new files in Windows 11 format.
Okay.
And
This is it. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
there's Michael Murphy.
Hi, Michael.
That's me. How you doing, guys?
Good. So anyway, I had the old directory had 55,000 directories in it.
Oh, jeez.
Matt has weeded those down to 6,000,
Oh,
and
jeez.
is distributing the files. It is making a lot more sense. So space engineering, they run into lots of data. Although I have no idea what he did. But his company has been recognized by the Washington Post as the #2 level 2 subcontractor in the space industry. So, and he's retired from it, but we know a few people there. Anyway, so that's what's going on. We're making progress, and one of these days, I hope, but it's been a few weeks. We'll get there. I'll stop talking. I've monopolized everything.
You mentioned directories. Did you mean folders?
No.
Wow.
Folders.
I don't even know what.
Maybe they substituted for Norm. That might have been.
Directories are massive folders that you put folders in.
Yeah. I think I only have one.
You may very well.
I don't know.
If you know what, one is better than multiple. I can't explain it.
It's a
You know,
miracle.
I let the computer do the filing, but I try to keep some semblance of order to it, but you know, I fight with it sometimes. You know, anyway.
The only thing I deal with are Word documents. Well, not the only thing, but almost always Word documents or pictures.
hmm So I have Word stuff. I have
Mhm.
a lot of Excel stuff.
Oh, I have Excel too. That's right.
You know, I've been involved with uh, two or three different agencies here in Kalamazoo. I was with the Parchment Community Library for 13 years, believe it or not. And I've been involved with various boards and stuff in related to Kalamazoo Parks for longer than that. But anyway, so I have lots and lots and lots of historical files on that stuff.
Okay.
And I'm not the base source of it. Those are user files that I've retained, but
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
the record files are elsewhere.
Mhm.
I have a question for Bill Yagerlener. Bill,
Yeah.
our numbers seem to be declining a little bit on these calls. I'm no criticism of anybody who doesn't attend. I'm just wondering, are we experiencing some health problems among our classmates, or does anybody know if there are people who are very sick or not and too ill to be on these calls?
I don't know. I did hear from Al Wamkoff, who said, and I completely forgot about this when we um, set the meeting for Monday. He has his Knights of Columbus meeting on the first Monday of the month. I had forgotten about that when at the last Zoom we didn't actually set it. I realized afterwards, well, I'll just go with first Monday. And then I heard from Stash. He was all set to come, and then he remembered he has a St. Vincent de Paul meeting he had to get to in person. So that would account for two more.
You know, Bill,
Um,
Monday usually, in a lot of church groups meet on Monday.
ah,
I mean, it's just kind of a untold tradition for what it's worth. Um,
Well, Word Church Group.
right, that's true.
Good point, Norb.
Yeah, you got that. You got that. And got my
I
calendar
think
here in another window.
just from my perspective, my class has Zoom meetings also, and we're down to about 6
Okay,
or 7, which we haven't dropped off too many, but there's been a couple. I think there's fewer than there used to be, and I think part of my thinking is people just get tired of joining or coming on it.
Well, what day of the week do you generally meet?
Norb.
Talking to Bill?
What time? When do we meet?
Yeah.
We don't meet on a regular basis, and so regular weekday. No, sometimes it's Wednesday, sometimes Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, it just depends. What I do, George Folk is the one who has the Zoom program, and so I sent when he and I decide when we want to do this, I'll send a message out to everybody and say, "Can you meet on this day?" And if it's not a good day, then we change the date.
Mm-hmm.
My class also meets through Zoom, typically on the second Thursday of the month, and our numbers have kind of fallen off as well. So I don't think that your experience is unusual.
No, right.
And we're not
Wow.
getting any younger. I mean, most of us are in our mid to late 70s. And Norb, you're probably over 80, aren't you?
84.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, in fact, we had three members. We had three members die this year. It was
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
And well, one of them never came on Zoom, but and in fact, two of them. One never did. One I think seldom ever did, but the third one did come regularly. So there's one.
When you
Yeah.
mention
One
that,
last
Norb, this past couple of months, I have gotten death notices from various people. I think some of them comes from you, Norb. In other cases, it's the spouse of whoever had been receiving the email messages.
Right.
So it's getting to the point where if I don't have anybody notice that anybody has passed away, it's kind of a rare month. And we're just
okay.
getting up there. So
Right. Right.
Bill, sometimes your death notices hit so quickly that their obituaries aren't even published yet.
right, yeah. And sometimes it'll be, weeks or maybe a month or more after somebody has passed away that I get a message from somebody. So my wife, who serves as my editor on the Alumni update, she said, "Oh, got another one that passed away?" Yeah, well, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Just along those lines, I got to tell you, I've been going to the same barber in downtown Detroit since 1978.
Jeez.
And he started in that particular office building at the end of the Korean War.
Wow.
He came out of the war and he had a barber's license before he went in 1950. And when he came out, I think it was 52 or 53, somewhere around in there, he just went looking around in downtown Detroit and latched onto this barber shop in what's now called the Chrysler House. It used to be the Dime Bank building way back in the day. And he found that little shop and he's been staying there ever since. And I think he's turning 95
Jeez.
this month, if he hasn't already.
Oh.
94 or 95. It's just, it's just
He's still barbering?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or his
wow.
cuts.
Well, you don't have any hair to cut anyways, Bill, so what difference?
Yeah, well, we can all look down and show
Yeah.
the spots there.
Well, if you keep busy, you're got more to live for.
So, yeah, he's a remarkable guy because we love kind of chatting about our collective memories between the two of us over what we have jointly experienced in downtown since the upper 70s. So we're talking, let's see, 78. So it's how many years? 22 and 25, 47 years I've been going to him.
Jeez.
Holy mackerel.
You
Even when I was
write a
working.
book.
Yeah. Even when I worked out in Brighton at Brighton Hospital, I would jump in my car and drive all the way downtown to get my haircut. The only time that has not happened is during COVID, when I went to, several months went by and I found a shop nearby that just kind of, was a unisex barber shop. So I went in there and had a haircut, but in 47 years, that's the first time that somebody other than me has cut my hair. Or the Sam Zayola. He's quite a character when you talk to the older generation, the generation ahead of us. and kind of pick their brains about their lifelong experiences. Just incredible. So, let's see. Oh, we were going to talk about whether or not or what the planning or ideas were for having a get together in September. And I see Bill Gebhard isn't here, but Frank, you and he were going to hook up, or did you
No,
come up with him?
we didn't really say that. Excuse me. What we said is, that we can arrive at a date, and I've not contacted him, and as long as it's going to be, it looks like in September, maybe.
Yeah.
Just about any date then is good for me,
Yeah, there's only one date so far that I've got an appointment for, but we'll need to get in touch with Bill and just come up with a date. So that's where things kind of stand. And now, related to that is the when we as a group have been meeting in Zoom, and it has been every 2 months as best we can. So the next one would be July to August to September. So if we have a actual get together, a live in-person get together, we probably wouldn't need to get together again in September. So, and I will try to remember not to select the first Monday of the month. Maybe, yeah, it seems like Mondays and Tuesdays have been fairly open for people. But how about if we kind of keep Mondays except the first, and then we'll see what the other days of the week, like Tuesday, might work. I'm just thinking out loud. Any thoughts anybody have? Oh, there he is. Bill Gebhard has just joined us. So anyway, that was my kind of thinking. And as soon as Bill logs on from there he is. Looks like you're in a car.
You are correct.
Oh, now you make me feel guilty.
Wow,
get you
a
pulled
Zoom on
over.
a car. I've never seen that before. Hi,
Well,
Bill.
Hello
Be
there.
safe.
I'm just getting back from, I've just got out of a Habitat board meeting, so I'm
Oh,
heading back home.
well,
And once I
that's
get back
interesting.
home, I'll switch back to a regular computer.
Wow.
We were talking about whether Mondays, it seems like Mondays was first Monday was difficult for Al Wamhoff because he has a Knights of Columbus meeting that day. And we were just chatting about whether it makes more sense to have it on a Tuesday or a second Monday, or do you have a regular meeting of Habitat that's
Almost every Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, let's scratch Mondays off and let's try Tuesdays how does that sound?
And that might
Nods.
Sounds fine.
that might help. Actually, I think Dick Host had a problem with
Yeah, I
with
kind of
Mondays.
vaguely remember that too, but
my Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually pretty well tied up.
oh, okay.
And Tuesday is the more important one than the Thursday. So if we schedule something like on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, any week, I'm open there.
Okay. I'm usually pretty flexible. So let's kind of shoot for Wednesdays then. How's that sound?
I can do Wednesday.
Pardon?
I can do Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
Now, Wednesday works for me. Thursday has conflicts periodically.
Okay.
I'm the same as Paul, Bill.
All right, let's try Wednesday. I got that right?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right.
That works.
Wednesday's okay.
Yeah, okay. So that clears up part of that thing. And right now, Frank Marfia, we have 9 guys. So that's getting back
That's getting
to
back to our numbers.
where
Yeah.
our numbers were. And if you count
Yeah.
Stash in kind of, he's sort of a semi-regular. And who else did I say? Oh, Al Wamhoff.
Mhm.
So that would put us up to probably 11 or 12 right in there. So that's kind of getting back to where it's been hovering the last few months. Every now and then we would have, I'm trying to think of who was some of the other ones that were in there.
Pete
But-
Garthe? Does anybody know
Oh,
about
Pete Garthe. Yeah. I didn't hear anything from him. So that's, we're kind of hovering in that 10, 11, 12 group. The only one that we really had the turnout was one of our early ones, Norb, when you got in touch with that guy who wrote the book about starting out seminarians are
Right.
as
Mhm.
freshmen in high school.
Yeah, the
And
named. Yeah.
that one really attracted a lot of attention. So
I thought about that recently, and I wonder if you want to try doing something like that again.
yeah, if we had somebody that was
Well, even the same guy.
I just go by whatever seems to interest anybody. If you've got some ideas about things that we could be talking about. Now, speaking of which, Jim Blanchard, you had an interesting comment or question about what is off bounds or or not. Why don't you explain your thinking on topics?
Well, I was just curious if the group would be interested in talking about the bill that just passed the Senate and the House.
Oh.
Some people call it the big beautiful bill, and others call it the big ugly bill.
Well, it's not. We got 2 bills in this group.
And no reference to individuals, only legislation.
Right.
Let's talk
I'll
about
let
the
you-
big ugly bill that just joined us.
I'll take the big ugly one, and you can be the big beautiful one, Bill.
Oh yeah, okay. But I'm up for it if somebody has any thoughts about it. Let's just go ahead, and if somebody decides they don't like it, they can always sign off.
Guess you got their vote.
My classmates had an experience like that. We decided to talk about more broader than the big bill, the Trump administration, basically, or politics in the United States. And we couple of us decided in advance what the ground rules would be, and then everybody agreed to that, and so we followed it. Basically, what we did is people after we joined, we actually prayed for guidance and help, and then
That's
each
good.
person had 5 minutes 3 to 5 minutes to explain their position, and then there was time for comments. We ruled out any arguing or debating. It was a matter of making statements about things because we were concerned about people getting attacking, and we wanted to avoid that. And it went very well.
Mhm.
I mean, you know your group better than I do. Maybe you can just jump into a discussion and it'd be fine.
Well,
Go
my thing on this is that everybody knows that the government could be a little more efficient. Everybody knows all these different things. But what they did, the paths and the methods they chose to use were just off the wall thinking. I was a controller in pretty good sized companies. And if some guy came into my plant waving a chainsaw over his head and just arbitrarily sacking bunches of people from each one of my department without even looking at what they do or even examining the department itself to see what its mission and purpose was to be, you know, it just, the implementation is just terrible. It's just all half-baked ideas, and it's going to lead to some real trouble, I think, because by the time they do get people back and everything, the internal structure of many of the departments will be messed up. Plus, a lot of the things that were done, I'm talking about U.S. aid to these people in the Sudan and stuff like that, you know. That program there is one of the things that, if you will, makes America great, because no one does it on the level that we do. And these prevention programs also in Africa that involve AIDS and the spread of AIDS, you know, and by doing these things, they protect the rest of the world, by the way. All that stuff is in jeopardy. You know, it just happens to be at the whim of one or several individuals. And, you know, they could have done something like saying, well, we need the money, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask each department, they're going to cut their expenditures by 3%, and then hire professionals to come in, study what the department does, whether it makes sense, work with the managers there because they're not stupid, they must know where they're weak, and then come out with reforms. But this, that's about all I got to say. It's I don't argue with certain principles here, but the implementation is just terrible. And that's all I'm going to say.
I would add to, I just read today that they estimate that 14 million people will die as a result of the cancellation of U.S. aid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
To go along with what you were saying, Jim, my thought on this is the administration is operating from the law does not apply to me. We can do anything we want because I'm the president.
Right.
And that really disturbs me.
I've read a lot that reinforces the argument that the rich, and I'm talking about the multi-billionaires and those ilk, and the huge businesses that control our economy, that they have sort of a Southern mentality that they don't want to pay for anything that doesn't directly benefit them. So they don't care as long as the country enriches their pocketbooks and they're not paying for anybody else's benefit. Now that's pulling stuff out their ways, but there's an argument for that. I won't tell you exactly where my bias is, but I will share separately. About a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, I came across a group of writers who call themselves the Patriotic Millionaires. And they propose that that we revise our business practices and tax laws and our call them welfare programs, the programs that benefit the people who need programs, that we should now, and these guys are millionaires. This summer I found out most of them are people who are in businesses that have stepped into a need for medical services, other types of public money-making public service stuff that have been on the rocks, and they step in. They do have a little bit of money because they have run successful businesses. Many of them have worked in the healthcare management area and have, rescued hospitals or service or medical service practices of some sort. And, they find that the organizations that they're taking over have great people in them who are being paid, not very much for what they're doing, certainly not what they are contributing to the business. And they set up their business so that it provides for the good of all the people in the business and their community, and they structure their expenses accordingly, and they make it a priority that they're structuring their business to work like that, and they succeed, and they make themselves millionaires, and many of their people they make wealthy because that's the way they function. And part of their philosophy is that the people who have millions and millions of dollars and had the billions and billions of dollars and more should pay significant money into the operation of society, as in return for the way society is enriching them. That and the effect is that the union guys aren't being busted by not getting a living wage and by overtaxed on stuff. So enough of that. But this is working for them, and they are pushing very strong on this. Keep your ears open. You will hear more from them as the year goes on, I'm sure.
I might have two things maybe to contribute for what it's worth, and both of them are life experiences. These both of them came about 15 years ago or so, but one of them, the first one I'd like to share is I was fortunate two different summers that I was on the went to administrative for higher education like workshops for a week at Harvard. And I distinctly remember both times that they, kind of, I'll use the word boasted, how they were getting, the mix in the society to come into their as their students, and indicating how many they were getting. It was quite impressive. And this was before all that push, but it was there. The other one that I had, it actually was started through it's called the Baldrige Award. I don't know if you've ever had it or heard of it, but Baldrige was the Secretary of Commerce under Ronald Reagan, and this gets back to the kind of the original comment and something that Paul's talking about. That he wanted this is when the Japanese were kind of taking it to us with the auto industry, and he wanted to get an award of excellence on how do you run a company. And I went to the Department of Commerce and went to these classes and was trained as an evaluator to go, because they had like a competitive contest, if you will, to determine who was the best in different areas like education and businesses and the like. There was quite a few categories, and that carried me through to see all this evaluation. It was kind of fun for me because I was going to different parts of the country and meeting people that I wouldn't, like, what is it like if I'm in just going beyond Kalamazoo or Lansing or anything? But this was I went to Nebraska, Illinois, Iowa, went to New Hampshire, Vermont, those areas. Went down to Arkansas and just saw all these different experiences people were doing. And this is like what we're trying to do now is just like, where's this all coming from? It makes no sense in a way. That, like I said, I was very fortunate. I mean, when I was at Harvard, I actually tapped Bill Clinton's hand. That was about it. And you were talking a little bit about, legacies and genders. Louis Gates, I met him in a bookstore. And just all kinds of different experiences and what people are doing. And it's so way, way away from what we want to do or what I don't know what we're trying to do. I mean, I agree with the first comment regarding, you got to figure out, and that's what this Baldrige would do with a lot of it had to do with planning. Like what are you going to, like, where's this all going? Where's the planning and all this stuff? You don't do it off the seat of your pants. And, it bothers me. I guess the other thing is very personal. My son, for a year during the Obama administration, worked for Senator Schumer as an intern. And during that time he was there, he gave, I have to brag about this, but he gave tours of the Capitol building. I was so proud of him, and to think of what happened, it was just disgusting to me. But that's just my, putting something to the group of what I learned and stuff. As an example, let me give you one that was very interesting. I was in North Fork, Nebraska. I was doing an evaluation for a community college, and they had a campus in Columbus, Nebraska, which you all know about, right? It was 75 miles north of where the campus was at North Forks or the Forks. Anyway, 75 miles, one traffic light right along the Platte River. And what I learned there is that Cargill, are you familiar with Cargill? It's a large, it's like farming and,
Agricultural, yeah.
what did you say, Paul? Yeah,
Agricultural.
yeah, very big there. And they were retooling their business there, and they had migrants there that were working in that factory or whatever it was. And what they did is at the community college there, they were teaching them English, ESL. In other words, they were unemployed, but they were trying to get them to learn English and pay for that. And this is in Columbus, Nebraska, which probably none of you have heard of. But what people are doing and what that was like, and just seeing all that different stuff based on what I was kind of involved with and happened upon, it just, it gave me an appreciation of life in our country, not this nonsense. I mean, how can you take away and just, the money on the food for people, so potentially 20 million people can die? When the Lord tells us from the very beginning that you're supposed to take care of, the hungry. The other thing is that I remember distinctly in first grade, they taught us that Jesus was and Mary were revoked from going into the inn because they were, they weren't, there was a problem there for how they came in. I mean, the nuns just, they really emphasized that. And we're making the very first rule right there, we're missing it. I guess that's my diatribe. So.
Well, when you go back to this wealth thing, since the year 2000, it basically started there with the young Bush and the tax cuts, the tax cuts, the tax cuts, the tax cuts. Never mind that there's deficits going on, but his first big tax cut, the two things happened. First one was the taxation of dividends went down, and then they gave the majority of the tax cut to the richer firms and individuals with the premise that they would use that money to enrich the earnings of the workers that worked under them.
Right.
Anybody knows anything about how MBAs and everything else work, that wasn't going to happen. And it didn't. And what's happened since then is it's gotten worse and worse. I don't know what the latest studies are, but the chief executive officers and presidents of the companies, their salaries have just soared exponentially. And at one time, there used to be a relationship between what people made on the working line and what the upper managers and presidents of companies made. And that has just gone completely out of balance. The wages of the top rulers have just gone through the roof, and the wages of the union or other people have remained relatively, it's gone up, but not to the extent. I do a lot of reading on this because I love finance. And one of the things I read was this country's running into a problem because of the American dream thing. And you've probably seen some of these things about certain people of certain generation don't want to work, or they're non-workers. And I did a little digging into that, and they went through a half a dozen things and everything. But this is a telling example. This guy started off with a salary 10, 12 years ago, and he's a skilled manufacturing guy, like in an auto plant. And he could have, it cost him almost everything to have a little bit of money left over for recreation and everything. Now he still owns the same house now and everything, and he's got a couple of kids and everything, but you get credits for them. He's sitting there, and at the end of the month, instead of being a little bit positive, he's in the hole, and there's no way out for him. Okay? And he's more or less said, what's the use? And income, the point I'm making, I'm taking too long to make it, is the income inequality in this nation has become rampant. I mean, the government can't even manage to increase the $7.85 minimum wage law. There's horrible opposition to that. And anybody worth his salt will not work for $7 an hour. But that's just a point I wanted to make. There's a transitional change in this country, and it's being done by the very rich. And people are electing people to office who really want to accelerate that. All these programs are supposed to save all this money. They're thinking a tax cut, a further tax cut now. And all these groups and everything. And everybody knows that the poor don't pay taxes, So again, they figured about 85% of this tax cut they're proposing and everything will go to the rich again. So I'm not saying the hell with the rich, but I'm saying we've lost the balance in this country as to what needs to be done financially in this country. And the disincentive we have for people to work is not welfare. It's the diminished ability to earn income. Anyway, I've had my say. Go ahead.
How are you, Frank Marfia?
I'm okay. You mean health-wise or personally wise?
Well, both wise.
Well, I'm in a bit of decline. I had a 2-session, they're calling it an infusion. It's like a chemo session where you're in a chair for 5 hours and they're pumping stuff into your veins. What they're pumping into my veins is antibodies because I have an autoimmune disease that's attacking my lungs.
Whoa.
So I'm gradually getting weaker. That's a problem. Today I tried to do a little mowing and I couldn't start the gas-powered lawnmower because I couldn't pull the string hard enough. My strength is declining. I'm getting short of breath more often. So when I was diagnosed with this disease, they told me I probably only had 10 years. Well, that was 4 years ago. So I'm definitely in a decline. The good news is I can sit here and I don't look, my health doesn't look bad. It's just when I try to exert myself that I just don't have any energy. So
Are you up in Wisconsin?
I am. I'm in Wisconsin, and I have a second home. So in one sense, I've got a lot to be thankful for. I'm 78, so it's not like I've had a bad life. Personally, I'm pretty upset about the way that where the country's going. I think this is the most corrupt president we've ever had in our history. And I am just amazed at how cruel he is to people in general. We need our immigrants. I mean, I grew up on a fruit farm. We hired immigrant. We hired Mexican-American fruit pickers. Now, they were citizens, but they traveled up from Texas every year to pick fruit and vegetables in Michigan and Illinois. And so they made us a trip every year from Texas up to the Midwest. So we were dependent on these fruit pickers. It's getting worse. Albert Wamhoff has a brother-in-law who's leaving the cherry industry because he can't find workers to help. I spent some time with Albert over the last year, and his brother-in-law is giving up. And his business is automated. He has a cherry picker that it's a mechanized mechanical device that surrounds the tree. It grabs the trunk and shakes it. The cherries fall into this catcher. So it's mostly automated, but he can't find people to drive his vehicles. He's in his 70s. His son is 50 and disabled. He doesn't want to do the business. So I think we need all the immigrants that are coming into our country. I know there's a few bad eggs, and they should be all deported. But the majority of people are coming here because they need work, they need stability. They're coming from terrible countries. Venezuela is a really bad country. I'm very disillusioned in Trump. So personally, I'm depressed. Physically, I'm in decline, but I still have a lot to be grateful for. So I have four great children. I've got 2 homes that are paid for free and clear. My wife and I have been very frugal all our lives, and we've put a lot of money in, as much as we could, in the bank accounts. So financially, we're doing well. I'm just so disillusioned with, and I honestly don't see the Catholic Church doing much. I could be wrong. I know that they're very generous with their time and they support the poor, but I don't see them making any public statements opposing what Trump is doing, and I wish they would. So that's my say today. And you can tell what side of the spectrum I'm on.
Just a note to add to your comments, 40% of the people who work in agriculture today are immigrants.
Yep.
A great number of them are not documented, but nonetheless, if I have this little death wish saying that, if they did succeed in sending back every undocumented foreign national, we'd fall flat on our face. We couldn't do what we do. It's just that simple. And there's just got to be other ways to doing this stuff. And you don't have to be cruel to do that.
You don't have to be cruel.
That's right.
There were a lot of people who came across the border from Canada in the early 1900s. It wasn't just the southern border that was porous. The northern border, there are a lot of people who moved, who wanted to come to this country, and there were restrictions on Italians and Irish. A number of them came through Canada. It was definitely an open border. And in Chicago, we still get tons of Polish who I don't know that they're documented. So it's not just Hispanics that are coming in undocumented. Chicago had a huge problem with homes being converted to apartment buildings. My neighborhood, the city of Chicago was very watchful when there would be specifically 2 houses down from me. They had 8 men living in it. It was basically a single family home. They converted their basement and their second floor into apartments. And I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but it's not just Hispanics that are coming across the southern border. We have illegal immigration from other countries all over the U.S. I don't know what the answer is exactly, but the cruelty that I'm seeing with the Trump administration, the way they're rounding up people and just deporting them to Sudan. Some of these people don't have any connection to Sudan or El Salvador. It's a dying shame. It's not American. It's not. Anyway, I said my piece. But we need our immigrants. Most of us, I don't know if all of you, but my grandparents were immigrants from Poland, Italy, and Italy. They came. And they were very, very hardworking people, very, very contributed to the economy. My father was a huge, huge fan of FDR. During the Depression, he worked 2 years in Fenville, Michigan on a sewer project paid for by the WPA, Works Progress Administration. Is that the name of the WPA? Fenville to this day still has an operating sewer system built in the 30s. So I'm sure it's getting to near the end of its useful life, but that was a major positive that happened in my father's life. He had 2 years worth of income during the Depression, where a lot of people didn't have much income at all. So whoever asked me, I've forgotten now what my thoughts were.
Pete.
Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Pete.
How's everybody else?
Oh, is Pete on the phone? Pete on here?
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
He
he snuck in.
He snuck in, huh? Oh, hi, Pete.
Anybody
He's on your
traveling? Anybody traveling to Europe or anywhere this summer?
That's a good question. No?
I am.
Really? Wow.
We're going to London at the end of the month, and we're going to do a cruise around the British Isles.
Wow. That'll be nice.
That should be fun.
Looking forward to it.
so it sounds like you're going to spend a good 2 or 3 weeks there.
Probably 3 weeks, Frank, as I recall. Because we're going to be in London for about 4 days before we get on the ship. And then after the ship, we're going to be, I forget where we get off the ship, but we're going to spend a few days touring that area before we fly back home. So it'll be about 3 weeks, as I recall.
Will you get to
Yeah, I
York?
know somebody else who took that trip, and they have geography and culture and everything else that's quite a bit different than here, and really quite fascinating, as I understood it. They spent about 3 weeks as well.
Will you get to York?
Pardon me?
Will you get to York?
What's in York?
I don't know. I have to ask my travel agent wife, and she's not here. She does the planning. I just carry the bags.
That's the general area that my daughter-in-law is from. just a
York?
little bit northeast of York.
Really? Wow.
And she and Matt lived there for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Wow.
We visited many times. We've done a lot of house renovation stuff there. They own no property there anymore. They're kind of happy to not have to take care of it. Things are expensive in England.
You know how those houses are in England, and I remember this in York, where the upstairs jets out a little bit from they face the street and they jet out a little bit. So the lower floor is kind of umbrellaed a little bit.
Yeah.
You know why they did that?
More space.
No. Well, it might be part of it, but it was actually because of taxes. Because they didn't get they only got taxed on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
So that they got around it doing that way. I also remember in Yorkminster where Cardinal Wolsey was and all that. In that church, I remember looking up and I'd never seen anything so gorgeous in my life with a stained glass window, and it looked like it was only, like an inch wide. It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful church.
Just a comment on how they tax buildings. If you remember, I suspect that we probably had that in history at one time or another. The French would put heavy property taxes on closets because no one could afford to have them. But if you did, that meant you had money, and so they would tax you. It's another throwback.
Frank, that's interesting. You say that in a different way about, the city of Detroit. They, the French had that, and they would do the shipping, and when they portioned off access to the Detroit River because of the shipping that was taking the farm goods. So, like a family would have their access to the docks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why all those names in Detroit, like Gratiot and Shane and all that stuff, those are all French names. Those are some of them were the families, named after the families. Also, Detroit is the same as Washington, D.C. L'Enfant designed it so that it was like a compass, and the streets all kind of they focus on a point like in the middle, and then they jet out along a compass system. I don't know if you knew that, but that's person's name is L'Enfant. There's L'Enfant Plaza in New York or Washington, D.C.
So
Did
Bill,
Bill Gebhard leave us?
Bill?
Which Bill?
are we going to go back to a date for a gathering now that?
Yeah, Bill Gebhard
is
looks
Bill
like he
Gebhard-
just signed back in.
Yeah.
No, I'm just eating and I just didn't want you to see what I'm doing. I'm here and I'm
Okay.
listening.
Mm-hmm.
Mike didn't say anything.
Does, if you want to talk about getting together, does September work for you guys?
It does, but not early September.
I'm
Probably
thinking
middle to late.
mid-September.
Yeah, we did September last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We seem to have a fairly decent turnout. I've got
September 18th, we did it last year.
Okay, how about September 17th this year?
Hang on for just a second. I sent you an email about the one date that I have an appointment for. I just want to look at my calendar, see if I have it.
Well, then let me make sure that that's not it. Go ahead, look for it, Bill. We'll talk among ourselves.
We had an earlier discussion about this, and it seemed like most people were free on a Wednesday.
And this is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh,
The 17th is a Wednesday.
okay. Also,
Now,
also,
hang on, let me check upstairs with the official gate.
Yes, understand. You cannot make decisions on your own. That's
Well, the only thing on our
I'll be
calendar for
right
the
back.
17th is the birthday of a dear nun friend of ours who is deceased. So
bring her
it's
along.
not a
Oh, I
problem.
guess you can't do that.
They'll be out in spirit.
what's interesting is Al Grabinski, who was a classmate of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
He wants to go this year. So
Great.
Nice
bring
to
him.
see him.
I've been trying to talk him into this for 2 or 3 years, and
He came to the one that we held in Kalamazoo.
Yeah,
at,
right.
uh,
At the restaurant.
Hotel.
at the restaurant there.
At St. Joe. He came to St. Joe.
I don't remember him.
And St.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, no, but he also was wasn't he at the one in Kalamazoo at
Yeah,
the
you're right, Phil.
fire
You're correct.
fire something.
What was it? We held one at, what is it?
Black Rock.
Rock. It's,
Yeah, Black Rock. Yeah, that's it. And then we
Well,
held one down at Shoes in St. Joe.
The 17th is the only day I'm scheduled to do anything in September.
Bill, you. All right. Let me.
Is Thursday okay? A Thursday?
I can do a Thursday if you guys want to. I just won't go to Habitat that day.
I have a meeting scheduled on Thursday. Whether or not we reschedule it is another question, but
Does the Wednesday before the 10th look any better?
10th is clear for me.
And me.
now, Bill, you're not going to find another one of these only day in September's, are you?
And I don't know. How does the 10th work for you, Frank?
That's fine. I'm going to be able to make it this year. Usually,
good.
yeah.
We would, if people show up on these calls, I would like to at least make it accessible for them. They spend some time on it, so
It's nice of you to host, Bill.
I appreciate. Well, no, I appreciate having everybody here, and it's somewhat. I don't know if I can say centrally located, but it's not overly burdensome, I guess.
The 10th works for me. How about I'll call the roll. Call Banner.
10th.
Bill Blanchard.
I think he said yes.
Okay. Jim Blanchard. Audio.
I think I'm available.
Down to Mike Murphy.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Frank Marfia.
I'll try to make it. I don't have my medical schedule in front of me, and
Right.
there's one day in September I have to start another round of chemo or infusion of these antibodies. But I don't think it's the 10.
But tell them that this is for your health, your mental health.
I agree. I agree. But they've already set up this appointment, so I wish I had my calendar with me, but I don't have it here.
Dick Gallant.
But I don't believe
Okay.
it's a 10. So it's a yes for me.
And Dick Gallant, did you
Yes.
say yes? Okay,
Yes.
I see a nodding in there. And Pete?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And Bill Gebhard, you gonna be home?
Hey, I'll leave the key under the door.
Leave the key.
Sure.
And Frank Unger.
I'll be there.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll go for the 10th.
Yeah, convince Karbinsky to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, I think
Yeah,
if you put that out, we may get a few more showing up.
Right, yeah.
That
Yeah,
will be able to
Gosh,
make it.
Guys,
Mike
we're on
Donnelly.
when?
I'll talk to Mike Donnelly.
It'll be the 10th at my place,
Okay.
same as last year.
What time should we show up?
Noonish?
Noonish?
Noonish sounds great.
All right.
And I'll include a Google map on the next when I send out those notices so that everybody
Yeah.
can know how to
Make
get
sure you
it.
have his address. and
Good,
use it.
good, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I know for a fact that Albert Wamhoff wants to come because he asked me to tell him the date of this
Okay, good. Yeah,
event. And I'll probably stay with Albert the night before. That cuts down on my trip.
That's a
Right.
good idea.
Before we sign off, one of the things that I was going to share with people, and maybe those guys who are in Grand Rapids, there was a report about the diocese closing a number of parishes,
What?
and included on the list was Saints Peter and Paul. The bishop was quoted, and apparently they had some big study to look at what's going on in the diocese. And the bishop, and I always forget his name, his comment was they only ordained, was it 1 this year and 0 the year before, or the other way around?
The other way around.
The other way, okay. And so they have for several, a little bit of time there, have been looking about what is the viability of each of the parishes within the different, I've never heard the term the deaneries, but and so the result is that several of the parishes are slated to be closed whenever whoever the pastor is retires. And so the ones that, there was one in Muskegon, St. Thomas, that was on the list of closings. And for the life of me, I can't remember who it is that is the pastor of St. Peter's and Saints Peter and Paul.
It's
Apparently-
Mark Bauer.
Right, yeah. He's also, there's a title that goes with when you're kind of running the parish, but not really the pastor of that parish. He's
Mhm.
involved with several other parishes around the area that where he's sort of an administrator in place, or in place only, or in name only.
I don't know that Mark Bauer's involved with other parishes, Bill. He's just at St. Peter's and Paul. And if I remember correctly, the bishop did make him the pastor there just this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they are apparently going to keep it open as long as he's able to serve there. When
Right.
he's ready to retire, then they'll be closing that parish.
Right.
Mhm.
And that looks like is on the slate for a lot of, I say a lot, I'm just guessing, quite a few parishes whose pastors are of our age or who have passed, they call them senior positions or something like that.
Pastors.
When our age isn't able to continue the work, that's when these parishes are really going to, face some very serious problems.
Mhm.
So I guess the thing is, pay attention to what's going on out there, because this is a big generational thing that's finally coming home to roost. And I would think that it's not just Grand Rapids, it's a lot of other dioceses
I was going
across
to,
the country that are facing this issue.
A lot of women. I know a lot of women who could help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there are. In rural Wisconsin, where I have my summer home, one priest has 5 parishes.
Holy cow. Holy
He
cow.
says mass twice on Saturday at 2 of the churches, and then the other 3 he says mass on Sunday morning,
Oh my gosh.
8, 10, and
Circuit
12.
rider.
Lansing Diocese ordained 7 priests this year. The
Wow.
other day.
Wow.
Kalamazoo is the same in a way. The Grand Rapids, maybe not quite severe, but we've only had 1 ordination in the last 2 years,
Jeez.
just like Grand Rapids. Yeah.
Are they getting foreign-born priests, some of these dioceses in Michigan?
We have some here in Kalamazoo. But even then, there's 1 or 2 that have been called back to their country in the last 18 months.
Mhm.
So that pipeline is getting closed as well. Not good.
I
see
always
the-
thought it was kind of interesting that, to my knowledge, actuarial studies had not been looked at in the last few years. It just seems like an actuary is the guy that looks out for the insurance, situation with older people. But somebody somewhere years ago must have said, we've got a lot of old guys and we're not replenishing them with newer priests, and let's either do something or kick the can down to the next generation. And it seems to me that that's what's happening right now.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Mhm.
I don't know. If priests could marry, you do it, we would not have the problem.
it'd be interesting to look at Christian churches where the priests are allowed to marry. Like, who was that from our class who was in the
It was
Marianite?
Joe Amar, the
Amar.
Amen.
Right.
He wasn't in our class. He was a year.
He's still around. He's still got his wife.
I mean, did he make it through his studies though? Was he ordained?
Yeah, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
ordained.
Oh, yeah.
Frank.
Uh-huh.
He was from
Yeah, he
St.
did.
Thomas. I
He
know
did.
him, but since
Yeah,
he
he
was
got a
like in
degree.
3rd grade.
He got a doctor's degree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was like 2 years behind us or something like
He
that.
was from St.
Yeah,
Thomas.
he was.
Right. So within the, what about the Episcopalian and the Lutheran churches? I wonder if they are faced with similar issues of leadership and.
Well, I know the Episcopalians accept women.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they all both ordain women. So
Right.
They both do.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Because my older brother left the Catholic Church and joined an Episcopalian church in Denver, and he's taken me to a couple services, and I was pretty impressed actually with the women who were conducting the services. It's too bad, as I said, that the Catholic Church won't follow that route.
It's amazing they won't even let women give homilies.
right.
Isn't that absolutely ridiculous? Just
Really
won't let them
ridiculous.
be deacons, won't let them do anything. It's
A lot of,
crazy.
lot of capable women sitting on the sidelines.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, guys, on that note,
Yeah, I'm going to have to go.
right.
Okay, we'll
So
see you guys. September.
You're in your prayers,
Okay, and it
Mark,
doesn't
Frank.
look like we'll need to have a Zoom in September because the 10th is when we're sort of shooting at for our physical get together.
Yes.
Is that
Right.
Sounds good.
okay? And if you guys happen to run across any of these articles that are worth sharing with or relating to things that we've been talking about, send them along to me, and I'll, as best I can, will put them in the alumni updates, just so people understand. What happens with the updates is I publish them like once a month, and then after a couple of days, I get a message from the company that handles the actual subscription and distribution, and it says, do you want to send a note to the people who haven't opened their messages? And so will wait a couple of days and then send a second message out, and it'll then I'll go in and check to see who all hasn't opened their emails, and that gives me an idea of whether some people have maybe their systems aren't working right or whatever. So in some cases, like today, I had sent a note out to Mike Murphy and a few others who hadn't opened their messages. I also publish them on the homepage of our website. It might not be the very same day that I send them out, but right around that time. So if you haven't heard from anybody or haven't gotten a message about the alumni update, you can always check on the homepage and see if something hasn't see if something has come out since you last have been in touch with folks. And you can tell other people that you might know if they haven't, our alumni or whatever. Check the homepage of our website, and it's St. Joseph Seminary .com. We now have that domain name. That's how they can keep in touch with what folks have been up to. So, with that, any final things from anybody, anywhere? This is your
Wishing everybody a good summer.
Yeah, have a good summer, everybody. I'm going to go and have dinner.
Yeah.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a good time
Good to
in
see you
England.
all.
Tally ho.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, be well, guys. Be well.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.